Well, welcome everyone to a very special online event today called Experiencing Your Untethered Soul. Discover the joy, equanimity, and love of true surrender. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network. And today is really a rare opportunity for me and for all of you to go behind the scenes with a man who's been an enormous influence, not on an entire movement, often with very little exposure in the public. This is one of the few public interviews he's ever done. And he has really gone deep within his own spiritual practice to create a perspective on how we awaken, how we serve, how we open to our untethered soul that allows us to really shine and experience joy and surrender into whatever life brings. His name is Michael Singer, and he's the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Untethered Soul, and The Surrender Experiment. Both are just terrific books and that have become celebrated throughout our movement, despite the fact that he's really never gone on the road to promote him or done much of anything to promote him. Michael had a deep inner awakening experience in 1971 when he was working on his doctorate in economics, and that led him to found the Temple of the Universe, which is a long-established yoga and meditation center. And he also became the creator of a leading-edge software package that helped transform the medical practice management industry. And he became the founding CEO of a billion-dollar public company, all coming from this deep surrender to his spiritual practice. So he's now had 4 decades of major contributions on different fronts and is really harvesting a lot of wisdom for us here today. So what a blessing and honor it is to be with you, Michael. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's such an honor, Stephen. I really look forward to getting to share with you this morning.
Well, I want to also just say, like, your example of how to live from a place of surrender is something that has truly inspired me and been a great teaching for me in launching the Shift Network. There have been many times I've turned to you as a source of wisdom and inspiration. So it's a personal, special moment for me as well. So I want to say that we're going to have this hour with Michael, and we also have a chance to go much deeper with him in an upcoming program. It's actually not even upcoming. It's actually available right now that he has created with Sounds True, and we're in partnership with them to help share this amazing program with you. It's called Living from a Place of Surrender, and we'll share a bit more about that towards the end today. So, Michael, let's begin. Since people may not know as much about your personal journey and story, whether you can start with a bit of backstory about what is it that put you onto the path that led to writing The Untethered Soul, and maybe give a sense, what is your own direct experience of the untethered soul?
My awakening happened back in, say, 71, and it was very subtle but very powerful. For some reason, I wouldn't even try to explain, I found myself in a situation for the first time in my life of watching my mind talk as opposed to being lost in the talking that was going on. It was just a one step back, enough to where the thing looked neurotic. It just kept bothering me. It kept talking about what's wrong and what could go wrong and what I did wrong 20 years ago and what I should do about it, or should I bother calling somebody or not, and what would be good or bad, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I realized this thing never shuts up. It just goes on and on. And sometimes it's got nice things to say, but a lot of times it doesn't have nice things to say, and it makes life rather difficult. And I was, 22 years old at the time, and I decided that I didn't want to live with that that was not a reasonable way to live your life. And so I set off on a journey at that time to learn. Really, I started by trying to quiet the thing, but it ended up being a journey of learning about why it talks so much, why it's so negative, why it's got so many problems, and why I am so addicted to watching it, that I behave as though it's me talking, when the reality of the fact is it's something I'm watching. So that is how I started my journey, and it really has carried that voice, what I call the voice in your head, has carried me pretty much the whole way on my path, because I decided I don't want to listen to that. That was very strong. I remember the moment I decided that if I have one life to live, I'm not living it that way by letting this neurosis inside my head drive me crazy. And so I tried many, many different techniques, of course, meditation, yoga, and all that. I still, of course, do my practices, but not like I did in the beginning. It was like going to war with my mind. And I learned not to do that. I learned that what matters is understanding, like you would deal with a child. Why is it that way? Not how do I want it to be? Try to understand what it's doing and why it's doing it, and then do the real work underneath of getting rid of what the Buddhists call the root cause of these things, getting rid of why it's that way instead of complaining or fighting with the way it is. And I have found that to be extremely productive and extremely liberating. And it has become the foundation, has always been for 40 years now, more the foundation of my life. And that is where, when finally in, I guess it was 2007, I published The Untethered Soul, that was a sharing of 45 years of having worked with this thing, because you catch on pretty quickly that it's not just me. Everybody has that going on in there. It just says different things based on our past experiences. And that my struggle and my work with that, and ultimately the beauty that you can find inside if you do work with that, is really shareable and the same for everybody. So that pretty much lays down how I've walked my path.
Hmm. Well, I love the phrase untethered soul. It's very suggestive because it's instead of like trying to kill your ego or a lot of the more sort of negative connotations we have of like working with the mind, it's like this is kind of gentle unwrapping, like, oh, taking this little part away, this little part away. Maybe you can share a little bit about that process of untethering so that the soul really gets to shine in the way that it's here to shine.
Well, the key is to always remember and always stay centered on the fact that you are not what you're watching, you are the one that's watching it. That goes true if there's a photograph in front of you. Everybody knows you're not the photograph, you're the one who's seeing the photograph. Same goes for all of the outside world. You are the observer, the experiencer, the receiver of your senses. But the same thing goes true for your mind. You are not your mind. You are the one who is aware that your mind is talking. I really like to focus on the voice in your head. That gets a certain amount of detachment, a certain amount of untethering in and of itself, to say, look what my mind is saying instead of look what I'm saying. Because it's not you saying it, it's you experiencing, observing, witnessing, if you will, what's being said. And so you just little by little, what I caught on is if you fight with the mind, you lose. That's like if you let your right hand and left hand fight with each other, you lose. No matter who wins, you lose. So it's the same thing with your mind. You can't fight with your mind. You have to be compassionate and understanding and see, why is it doing what it's doing? Why does my mind remember what happened 30 years ago? And when I smell something or see something or hear something, all of a sudden it starts talking about it, usually something negative, usually something that bothered me. It reminds me of something that bothered me. Why is it doing that? The mind is not against you. It's not like a part of the universe that's put in there to cause you trouble. It is an understanding that what happened, and this is how you untether your soul, and I've seen this over and over with everything, that what happened is 30 years ago when a certain event took place, I was not evolved enough to handle it. It bothered me, and I didn't know how to deal with that. So I did what Freud called suppress it. I pushed it away. I pushed it into a part of my mind that I didn't have to deal with all the time. It made it more comfortable. But you find out very quickly that that part of your mind doesn't go away. It just grows down there and gets sicker and more disturbed. And then it comes up whenever it's stimulated. And so untethering means undoing that process. If I had not stored that inside, it would not be bothering me now. Therefore, the answer is not to create a life that doesn't stimulate it so it bothers me, that doesn't bother me. The answer is to get it out of there. And that becomes how you untether your soul, how you liberate yourself, how you free yourself, is to do the work that's necessary to let go of this stuff that we have willfully stored inside because we were unable to deal with it when it happened. And that pretty much is the whole path of spiritual purification. And if you do that every single day, every single minute, you will find that life becomes lighter and easier and much more enjoyable and inspiring and passionate. There's nothing blocking. And ultimately, which we'll talk about later, you will find that you're really very beautiful in there. You, not your mind, not what you're watching, but you are something very, very special. And as you stop being fixated on what your mind is saying and all the problems that it's trying to express that you stored inside, you will start to feel the nature of your own being. And it is very beautiful. And that's when yoga and the other spiritual teachings start to talk about experiencing spirit, experiencing Shakti, experiencing these waves of joy and love that are inherent to the nature of your being. So that's how you untether your soul. You do the work
Hmm.
necessary to let go of the anchors that you are holding on to.
Hmm. Well, there's so much in what you shared that's just really precise spiritual understandings, and let's unpack a little bit. So you're saying you can't do battle with the mind because then you get caught up in it, and yet you do have, there is this motion where you're moving away from it, which can also be perceived as separating. And I know most of us would be like, oh, I don't want to deal with that. So there's like a subtle resistance that can also crop up as well. And so how do you work? How do you find that place where you're, in a way, you're neutral enough to kind of decouple, but you're also not so passive that you're just sort of not even working on it, just like, oh, whatever.
Right. That's a beautiful, beautiful question. It shows the depth of your work that you've done on yourself to even ask a question at that level. What I like most in how you frame the question is that there is this pull of energy that's pulling you into your problems. If your mind starts saying something like, I don't know, I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say that? Oh, God, I was doing good till I said that. It was so stupid. What are they going to think of me? It's very difficult to not find yourself feeling upset, to not find yourself getting guilty or feeling bad about what's happening and feeling self-conscious when you see the person the next time. These are very, very human pulls of energy. The problem is they're not you. You're the one who is experiencing that your mind is saying this, that your mind is holding on to this. So what you get to a certain point where you realize, if I don't deal with this, it's going to be there for the rest of my life. I'm going to feel self-conscious next time I see those people. I'm going to feel afraid to express myself next time because I might look stupid, and so on and so forth. And so you get to a point, just like anything else in life that you want. If you want to buy a car, you need to do the work to earn the money. If you want to have a relationship, everybody knows you got to work on relationships. So if you want to have a beautiful life inside and feel free to express yourself and not have all these problems that you're causing yourself, you have to be willing to say, yes, I understand. There are going to be disturbing moments that my mind and my heart, my humanness, are causing me. I don't want to suppress them. I don't want to push them away because I understand that if I do that, they'll stay there and they will literally rot down there and get worse. I don't want to go out and apologize, try to find the people and say, no, I really didn't say that. You misunderstood me. That's so stupid, it's ridiculous. But most of the time, the people don't even know what you said. You're just causing yourself trouble. So you don't want to go out there and express it to try and fix it. And therefore, you're left with only one choice, which is, are you willing to let it go? Are you willing to look at it and say, it's like you would a child. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Nobody's perfect. People aren't judging you at the level you think they are. And if they are, they shouldn't be. So don't worry about it. And are you willing to use that openness and acceptance and respect for yourself and others in life to just say, let it go. Let it go. And you just, my experience is the way to let it go is not to do something. It's literally to relax. You just relax in the face of the disturbance and it will go by itself. If you don't hold it in there, it will go away. And that becomes your entire spiritual path. Are you willing, under every single circumstance, the little spats you're having with your boyfriend or girlfriend or wife, the things that happen at work that you don't really want, you don't think they're fair, you don't think you should have got the job and not somebody else, you should have got the raise, all these little things that happen that our minds cause disturbance about, your starting position is, am I willing to let this go? Not will I not deal with it? I can deal with it after I let it go. But what I want is the essence of my teaching. I don't want to deal with the fact that I can't handle it. I want to deal with what happened, not with the fact that I'm not okay with what happened. Those are two totally different things. If I'm dealing with the fact that I'm not okay, I'm dealing with me. I'm dealing with my emotions, my problems, my past experiences. I'm not dealing with what actually took place. If I can let go of that initial reaction of personalness and personal disturbance and just relax through it, now I can find myself face to face with a situation and see if I need to deal with it. And my experience is that 95% of the time, there is nothing to deal with. The only problem was that it bothered you. If it hadn't bothered you, it would be gone. It would be over, right? But we don't do that. We think that because it bothered us, we have to fix it. And my experience is you fix it inside. You should not be causing yourself trouble. It's enough problem that the world does things that aren't in balance. You should not be causing trouble for yourself. And that becomes the essence of the commitment of saying, yes, it's uncomfortable. Yes, it's pulling on me. Yes, it's gnawing on me. But if I push it away, it's going to do that for the rest of my life underneath, and it'll affect everything. If I express it, it will become a habit that I try to fix everything by making it be my way. That's what people do. They say, I'll be okay if everything's the way I want, and I won't be okay if it's not the way I want. Therefore, I'm going to go out there and fight with everything and make it the way I want. Instead, you relax inside. You just relax through it and say, it's fine, it's okay, I can handle this. And then if there's something that needs to be dealt with, you come back and deal with it. So that's my experience in answering what you said, Stephen, is these energies are not easy to work with. They pull on you, they draw on you, they create discomfort. You have to say, I am willing to be calm and centered in the face of that discomfort so that it can pass instead of store it for the rest of my life.
Fascinating. I love the distinctions you're pointing to there. I mean, it also points to, like, we have a whole culture that, like, we have songs about let it go, but most people aren't very good at it. So it sounds like part of where we're not as good at it is we personalize it, and then we're not okay with being bothered, and so then we want to control the circumstances to get a different outcome. And it's that personalizing plus control that then ends up creating all the downstream effects. It's like, was that right? Where most people get hung up and are not able to let it go?
100%. You couldn't say it better. What it boils down to is, I am not comfortable with this. If I'm not comfortable with it, it's wrong. It's as simple as that, right? I'm supposed to be comfortable with stuff, all right? So if you said something that bothered me, you did something wrong, all right? And I want it comfortable in here. I don't want it uncomfortable. Therefore, I'm going to devote my life to the current state of my mind and its disturbances and try to manipulate and control everything and everyone around me so they behave in a way that when they come into me, it makes me feel better, not feel worse. And we end up fighting with everything. That's where wars come from. That's where everything comes from. All disturbance, all relationship problems, everything is, I can't handle me, therefore you should change. We even do it about the weather. We get upset because I want to go camping tomorrow and it's going to be raining. Why did that happen? What did I do wrong? That's ridiculous. Why even the universe is against me? We're so funny. If it doesn't match what our mind wants, we honestly believe it's supposed to. And so a wise person just says, this is a non-starter. This means I'm going to struggle my entire life. I would rather enjoy life, appreciate life, be grateful for the fact that I get this experience of life. I'm glad there's water coming out of the sky. I would tell everybody on Venus, hydrochloric acid falls out of the sky. So next time it rains, don't complain so much, all right? And you just get to the point, where you learn to honor, respect, appreciate, engage, and completely passionately embrace life because it's an awesome experience. The only reason it's not is because your mind is telling you, I don't like it. Well, instead of trying to change life, why don't you change you? Why don't you teach your mind to say, wow, this is neat. This is really challenging. Wow, that person's smarter than me. What an amazing thing. I thought I was right. It turns out he was right. Wow, is that neat? How would you like a mind that said that to you? It'd be a lot more enjoyable, wouldn't it?
That's amazing. Well, what about situations where we could probably somewhat more objectively say something in the society needs to shift? A war, oppression of minorities. There's a lot of things that we can think of that, objectively the society will be healthier and happier and more fulfilled if we eliminate certain things. And so when it bothers us there, how do we navigate a situation like that where there could be a genuine contribution to something that we need to deal with, but then we've got a lot of additive reaction that's coloring how we're doing things?
No, that's the key. Like, of course there's work. We're here for a reason, right? There's work to do. There are moments that unfold in front of us. And I always teach everyone the highest life you can live is that every single moment that passes before you is better off because it did. You can't do any better than that, Stephen, all right? If every single moment, every one that passes before you is raised because it passed before you, you have devoted and done a great deal and used your life very wisely. The problem is we don't get the ability to do that. Why? Because moments aren't passing before us. Moments are always passing before us. So why can't we devote ourselves to serving the moment, raising the moment, because it bothers us? It either bothers us because we want it, so we go running after it, manipulate it, try to grab it and keep it, or it bothers us because we don't want it and it disturbed us and we feel anger or fear or anxiety, therefore we don't want it to be there. So we literally take the attitude that the moment is supposed to serve us instead of we're supposed to serve the moment. And while we're doing that, my experience is, it's just my personal experience in life, is that we can't do any good. We're going to go out there and bring all the disturbed energies that we have inside of ourselves and dump them into a world that's already disturbed. So we become part of the problem instead of part of the solution. And I don't need to give examples. I know you know plenty of examples where people who had their heart in the right place, environmentally or personal, personal rights and so on for other people, end up fighting and causing all kinds of trouble and feeling hatred and just spewing all kinds of toxic energies into the world because they think they're right. So the first thing you do is you make sure you can handle reality. If you can't handle reality, you don't belong on the playing field because reality is reality. So you start by looking at what's going on. Here's the moment that came before me, all right? And it can come before you on the TV. It doesn't come before you in real life, right? Or a movie or a book. In other words, you're exposed. Something came in through your senses, and you have to deal with it. If it makes you angry, if you can't handle it, if you go bananas on the damn thing, you're of no use because what's going to happen is every decision you're going to make is actually about how do I change it so I'm okay. If you're drowning, don't think you could be nice to anybody. You're drowning. And if somebody tries to save you, they tell someone, you have to save a drowning person, you be careful. They'll pull you under. They don't mean to, all right? But they're drowning. So if you're disturbed inside, and that's what's going on, I'm telling you, you're going to do everything you can to stop being disturbed. And there's nothing that says what you're going to do is what's best for the situation outside. It's only what you think is best for your situation inside. How to make it stop hurting, how to make it stop being so disturbed, and so on. So there's a real distinction between working outside to fix your inside versus being at peace inside, feeling whole, complete, in harmony with every situation, and then seeing what you can do to serve the moment that's passing before you.
I really like your distinction there between the moment is there to serve you versus you're there to serve the moment. It's like the Copernican shift in terms of our own spiritual development to really see. It's like, oh, instead of we're like the center of the universe, and why is it not working according to plan? It's like, oh, the universe is unfolding in its own beautiful way, and I'm here to help that do that. And that's just a really key foundational shift if we can reorient ourselves that way. So let's talk a little bit more. I know you've got some fascinating insights into why the mind does what it does and why it sort of builds into more and more of a horror show over time. So let's talk a little bit about how the mind gets into these ruts and grooves and so that we can step back from it and not be so locked into it.
I spent a lot of time watching the mind. That's what it boils down to. Is that I never read any books, I didn't do any kind of stuff. I just watched the mind. And what I saw, and this is what everybody sees when they watch, so it's not unique to my teachings, is when you look inside, you will see that there are moments that unfolded in your life that you were not comfortable with. Either they were things that bothered you, or they were things that you wanted, and they went away, and you wanted to keep them. And like I said, these moments don't pass through. They're not like the white lines on the road that you just see them, you interact with them properly, and that's the end of them. And so it goes for 99.999% of the universe that passes before you. You don't store it. I mean, you can bring it back with your memory, but you're not storing it, holding on to it, clinging to it. Buddhists call it clinging. You're letting it go. You're using it for what needs to be done at the moment, and then it's gone. And you deal with the next moment. Very much be here now. But there are certain things, because they affect us emotionally and disturb us mentally, that we either want them, so we want to keep them. I don't want them going away, or I don't want them, and I wish they didn't happen. Those we don't process well. We keep those inside. And so we actually store, we make a hobby. I tell people, if you want to collect stamps, that's nice. You want to collect coins, that's nice, but don't collect bad experiences, which is what we're doing. And so we make a collection of these things. So our poor mind, there's nothing wrong with our mind, it's what we did with it. Our poor mind now is in a state where as we go on in life, it gets fuller and fuller and fuller of disturbing experiences, things that we held on to that we didn't like. And so they stayed inside because we didn't know how to deal with them. My experience is it is those things. In yoga, we call them samskaras, impressions from the past that stayed inside because you held them inside because you couldn't let them go. That those are the things that make the mind be the way it is. That just like when you go to sleep, deep insight, when you go to sleep, your mind creates dreams. You know you're not doing it. You don't decide what dreams you're going to have. Your mind creates dreams. Freud studied that, and he said that is the stuff that you stored from either the day or years ago, needing to release itself. And so that's what the mind does. It bases your dreams, other than the unique spiritual dreams, where you're having a visionary dream. I'm not talking about that, and there's very, very few of that, right, in most people's lives. But a normal dream comes from the subconscious, and your subconscious is where you stored all this stuff you don't want to experience. So your mind has the ability to weave these stories and think about and talk about things, and it does it based on the data that you stored inside your mind. To me, and that's one of my great breakthroughs, I remember when I saw it, the same exact thing's happening all day. It's just that you're awake while it's happening. You're not making your mind say what it says. You don't decide what you like or don't like. It just says, I like it. I don't like it. I don't want to be here. It just says it, all right? It is the same. I call it a waking dream. So that this stuff you stored in there starts expressing itself, releasing itself while you're awake. And the next thing you know, you have a talking head going on inside your mind. And it just talks. And most of it's going to be negative. Most of it's going to be worry. Most of it's going to be anxiety. Most of it's going to be what you do wrong and how do you fix it. And a lot of it is people get negative about themselves. You don't think highly of yourself. What kind of a thing is that? Where does that come from? Why would the mind do that? Because you stored all these negative experiences that have happened in your past that you didn't process well. And now your mind is trying to release those energies. And so it paints these pictures, these daymares, I call them, these daymares of, I don't like mimicking it. It's frightening, right? But we live with it. And so that's where it comes from. And that's why the mind does what it does. The mind's not against you. The mind's trying to heal itself. It's trying to push these things out so that it doesn't have them inside. Just like your body, your immune system tries to push foreign matter out. Your mind and your heart are trying to push these negative impressions that you stored inside so that it can be whole and complete. And my experience is that the highest spiritual path and the highest spiritual technique is to help it do that. Is to say, wow, I have an immune system with white blood cells and lymphatic things and drainage and all this stuff. All right, I'm going to assist if it's going to do this for me and raise my temperature and kill bacteria and viruses. I respect that. I honor that. I'm not going to go out and run around in the rain when my body is trying to heal itself. Well, it's the same thing with your mind and your heart. They're trying to purge themselves. So I'm not going to get mad. I'm not going to get all involved in the negativity that's coming up. I'm going to assist. I'm going to say thank you. I'm going to release the stuff it's trying to get rid of. Maybe I couldn't handle it when I was younger. Maybe I couldn't handle it last week, but I can handle it now. All right? The situation's not happening anymore. I should be able to handle it. And I'm going to neutralize and release and honor the opportunity to help my mind, the natural process of our energy body, to purify itself from these impurities that we stored inside based upon our past impressions.
I think that's really so fascinating what you said. And linking it back to the point you were making earlier about that the moment isn't there to serve us, we're there to serve the moment. In many ways, you're talking about how to serve our mind in purging itself and cleansing itself, something that probably is just built into the human condition. We come in, it's like little babies, like, crying because you don't want certain experiences you don't want. It's just hardwired in. And then you keep dominoes. We don't have training until we're probably mostly in a teenager and adult, and how to help the mind actually release some of those negative experiences. And so I think it's a fascinating insight. Do you feel like it's just intrinsic to the human condition, or could we raise raise people who didn't have that accumulation process going on?
Well, I think we should start teaching. We teach so many things, right? I mean, of course, I'm older, so I've seen society go through a lot of changes. Like, I'm fascinated when I walk into a grocery store and I see vegan food, right? You can imagine what that's like for someone who grew up in the 60s, right? So or any of the other more modern things, healthy things that are going on in Publix and general supermarkets. So the same thing needs to happen with our minds. We learned how to take care of our bodies better. We learned that eating properly makes a big difference. Most people are relatively reasonable with their diets nowadays. Not a whole lot of people living off of Twinkies and Cokes. There's some, but the consciousness, the general consciousness of society, certainly in our country and in a modern Western world, advanced culture, that people are very conscious of exercise and of diet. So they're helping their body be healthy. The body naturally, most of the time, is trying to be healthy, and you help it. Why don't we do the same thing with the mind? Because we don't understand that we're not our mind. People literally think if the mind says, you know, I got married and I was happy, but I'm not so sure I'm happy anymore. I don't know whether I made a mistake. And that's, by the way, the morning of your honeymoon, right? And your mind starts saying something like that, and you're stupid enough to listen. You're stupid enough to think, oh my God, what did I do? Maybe I made a mistake. How do I know this is the right person? That's just garbage. That's garbage. That's just insecurities from the past that you stored inside, that now the mind has used this moment to try to release those insecure energies and so on. What you should do is look at the mind when it's doing that and sit there and say, thank you. Thank you for releasing these negative energies. I don't want to bring them into my marriage. All right? And I know I'm going to do well with this marriage. And they talk about positive thinking. That's a nice way to do it, is to, Yogananda, great master of yoga, used to teach, every time you have a negative thought, replace it with a positive one. The purpose of that is not just so you have more positive thoughts. The purpose is so you affirm the fact that you are not your mind. The very fact that you have the ability to work with it, to tell it, to change how it's thinking, to put a positive thought in there when it would have generated a negative one by itself, is affirming the fact that you are independent, transcendent to your mind. You have the ability to make it do what you want instead of what it would do on its own because of these past impressions. So yes, we can, of course we can. We can teach our children. We can teach, first we have to teach ourselves. See, a lot of activists sit there and say, oh, this is so exciting. How do I change the educational culture? How do I change the world? Start with yourself. If you can't do it with yourself, stop imposing it on everybody else. The way you teach is by showing that it is possible. You present to every human being you meet the most beautiful human being they ever met. You're going to change the world if you do that. You certainly change the world around you, and those people who change the world around them. It's a grassroots type thing. It isn't, legislation. we all should learn to let go of our samskaras. It's something that happens from the grassroots, from the bottom. It's true activism. You're changing everything when you change yourself.
Beautiful. Amen to that. It's so beautifully said. Let's talk a little bit about how we build more capacity. So obviously our capacity to sit in the fire, witness the sort of purging process and clearing process, being grateful to the mind for doing that. I think that's a real shift for people right now, because a lot of times people are sitting on a meditation cushion and they're thinking, God, my mind is so noisy and doing all this stuff. I just want to be in the bliss. Instead, you're sort of, oh, thank you. You're actually doing your job of clearing this out right now. And that shifts. That's a great little shift right there. So how do we keep building our capacity to be of greater service to that process, so that we can handle more discomfort? We can handle something very intense. Let's say the election of a political person who we can't stand. That's an example to be a common one in the country right now. How do we increase our capacity to tolerate that and even be at peace within that?
That's a beautiful, beautiful question. To me, it's exactly the same as how you learn to play the piano. And I mean, literally, exactly the same. As you learn to play the piano, it's exactly the same as you learn to play tennis or anything. You don't start playing the piano with Mozart or Beethoven. You start with the scales. And if your mind or you are silly enough to think that this has no meaning, right? Why am I, scales are meaningless? They're not. They're teaching you how to do something. As you improve your basic techniques, you will be able to do more and more complex, difficult things. It is exactly the same with letting go. It is exactly the same with surrender. It is exactly the same with learning to work with your mind. You don't start with these big things that have always bothered you and so on. I mean, sometimes life makes you because it dumps it on you. But in our normal everyday lives, there are things that are going on that I call low-hanging fruit. The driver, and the one I love, and everybody likes it too, the driver in front of you is driving 15 miles an hour below the speed limit and you're in a rush. There you go. Time to play the scales. There is no benefit, I mean none, to be bothering yourself about that situation. It is not changing the situation. The driver in front of you doesn't hear you yelling at him or her, right? It is just a disturbance you are creating for yourself. I'm not saying you don't pass them. If there's, you're allowed to pass and it's safe, pass. Nobody's saying you have to suffer, cause yourself to suffer. But if you are in a single lane situation and there's no passing, you have a choice. Suffer or don't suffer. I don't know why you would choose to suffer. I don't know why you would choose to ruin your day because some driver is driving slower. Big deal, in 2 minutes from now, they'll turn or you'll get to pass them. That's the real test of your commitment to your spiritual growth. Are you willing to take that situation and say, wake up. I do not need to be causing myself problems about this, and I'm not going to. What my mind is doing is using this opportunity to release the fact that I'm frustrated at work and release the fact that I had a fight with my wife and so on, right? It's taking it out on this situation. I don't want to do that. I want to let this go. I want to use this as an opportunity to let go. And so you let go. You just let go. You just relax. You make yourself relax. You just relax and it will stop. If you relax, you have to interact with the mind to keep it going. If you have a thought and you don't go with it, it doesn't keep going. It's when you keep going with it and getting involved in it and fighting with it or agreeing with it, that interaction keeps the mind going. If you just relax behind it and realize this is higher than meditation, it's higher than mantra, is you get to do it every single moment of your life. The reason you have to meditate, the reason you have to do mantra is because you're not doing this, because your mind is disturbed. There will come a time in which your mind is not disturbed because you let go of these energies that are stored inside, and all of a sudden, your mind will become your best friend. And when you want to think about something, it'll be totally present, analytical, clear, and sharp for you. And then otherwise, it's quiet. It's not doing the garbage. So basically, you start with small things, and nothing is too small. The fact that you're complaining about the weather, it's too cold, it's too hot, it's rainy. How did that change anything? All it did was make your inside disturbed because the outside was a certain way. You didn't fix the rain, you didn't fix anything. So you start relaxing your way through these everyday moments in life, and wait till you see what happens. It changes your entire being, changes your life, changes the life of everybody around you because you're not complaining all the time and dumping things on people. And this is how you do it. This is how you learn to do it. You learn to do it by doing it.
Beautiful answer. I love it. Just start with the low-hanging fruit and build capacity. Let's talk a little bit. One of the things I've been most struck by in your work is this deep understanding of surrender. And I loved The Surrender Experiment. It was one of the seminal book for me, and just understanding also the cycles of business. Just like sometimes there's big ups and sometimes there's real lows, and just learning to surrender through all of those has been such a blessing. Not that I'm perfect at it yet, but it's a work in progress. And so I'd love for you to just reflect a little bit for folks on just the principle of grace and surrender, and seeing what happens as having a higher intelligence to it, and not as automatically assuming something's happening that's in the wrong sequence or the wrong direction, but it's really starting to just start with a different assumption. What if this is actually exactly what is the greatest thing that could happen, even if it seems to be a real dark challenge?
Yes, that's very deep. In the course, which you're going to talk about, I do an entire session on that. Take a step back, and I won't do it here, but I'll do it very quickly. We're told by our scientists that 13.8 billion years ago, there was this Big Bang, and that there were these thick, thick, thick clouds of hydrogen. That's all there was thick, thick clouds of hydrogen gas. And that was the basic atom that first came out of the quantum field, was the most simple atom, hydrogen. And then they build how the fusion process started due to gravity, and then hydrogen became helium, became lithium, beryllium, boron. All the atoms got built out of those hydrogen gases. And to me, I know I'm not a physicist or anything, but I look at this and I say, okay, how I treat my mind. It all was just these thick gases. Nothing got added to it. Just the forces of creation interacted with these gases and made every single thing you see right now. No human beings did it. Nothing. It just interacted together, created all the atoms of creation. Then they pulled themselves together, and the whole evolutionary process took place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what you ended up with, OMG, right? You ended up with, oh my God, look what's here. Look what those, literally, your nose is those hydrogen atoms. Do you understand that, right? It just basically got restructured, reformed, fused together, et cetera, et cetera. And I look at it and I say, I think it gets an A++++++ for what it made by itself. Now, whether you say, no, God made it, fine, that's God. The power, the forces of creation, that which created creation and forced it to unfold the way it did. It's the exact same thing science is studying. Why are things the way they are? So whether you look at it from God did it, you look at it from saying science, the forces of science, it happened by itself and put itself together, it's irrelevant. The point is you didn't do it, and Einstein didn't do it, and Albert Schweitzer didn't do it, and the President of the United States didn't do it, and nobody did it. It happened by itself. It made us. We didn't make it. And you look at that and say those exact same forces are going on right now. They have not changed one iota. They will be going on for billions more years. And who am I to look at what they made and say it's wrong? Because the moment in front of me is the result of every single thing that ever happened, no matter what it is, no matter how immoral it looks, no matter how wrong it looks, no matter how bad it is. The truth is, we all came from the same place. It all got created by the forces of 13.8 billion years of creation. So your starting point is respect for everything. Your starting point is awe. Your starting point is you are looking into the face of God. You are looking into the face of creation, and you have the honor of seeing what's going on in front of you. That's your starting place. Now you deal with it. We talked about that. Now you deal with, this is why I tell the story. It took what's in front of you, 13.8 billion years to get there. It took you 13.8 billion years to be who you are in face-to-face with that moment. It's a match made in heaven. So you start by respecting it and seeing what you can do to interact and interface and raise the moment. And there are no exceptions. The Dalai Lama teaches this way, all right? All the great ones do, is the universe is the perfect reflection of every force that made it be the way it is. Who can argue with that? Everything is the way it is because of everything that made it be that way. And so there is a perfection there, not perfection from a human point of view, not perfection from a right or wrong point of view, not perfection from what will lead to what I want point of view, certainly not that, but it has a perfection, and you have to respect that. And the moment you respect it, you can actually help raise it. But if you are hating it or resisting it or thinking it's wrong, right, you are out of tune, you're out of harmony, and you're just going to cause more problems. Sometimes I think, and I won't get deep into this, and I didn't do this in the course, I think about how human beings learn to fly, all right? We found out there was this thing called gravity. Well, gravity doesn't help you fly. Gravity keeps you from flying. It keeps you on the earth. But do you understand that you had to study gravity, all of its forces, how it worked, how uplift worked, and everything? You have to study everything that is in order to understand how to transcend it. That's how you learn to fly. My aerospace industry studies gravity. They study the forces of nature because they want to raise above them. They want to make them higher. Well, that's what I see life that way. You have to be willing to accept and honor and respect everything so that you can be the one that it all fits inside of you and have the breakthroughs and inspirations of how you can raise it to another level.
Just beautifully said. And so applying that on the personal level, so that whatever, if you essentially assume that all of the circumstances that are happening to us are part of that same perfection in the kind of non-human sense, not wish fulfillment sense, but perfection of an unfolding, then like, to use an example from your book, which really moved me to the core, is like, I thought everything you were talking about was great, surrendering to this and this, but then surrendering into a massive lawsuit. Like that was one who's like, okay, Michael's walking his talk here. So as an example, like that, a multiple year, massive headache, very expensive lawsuit does not sound like what most people could surrender into. So, well, if you just share a little bit about that and how it actually, by surrendering into that, it actually opened up new things.
No, it was like everything else in life. Everything happens when it's supposed to. Just, it's so funny. I don't want to say because it's good, right? How can the ball hits the ground exactly at the moment it's supposed to. Isn't that amazing? Everything happens at the moment that all the forces cause it to be. So you are part of that, and you're part of the universe. And so my experience is events unfold in a way that you get tested, or I don't like the word tested. Are given the opportunity to play more complicated scales, given the opportunity to play a more complex piece, or play against an opponent in sports that's better. So you're given that opportunity to deal with these different situations in life. And if you're wise, you will always honor the opportunity you're given to honor and respect and rise above what happened to you. Otherwise, you will have missed the lesson in school. And so now when the next lesson comes, you won't be ready for it. And that's when things become overwhelming and the downward spiral happens. If you will, every time everything happens to you, everything, let it go, come to peace with it, honor, respect it, then deal with it, you will find that you build these tools up. And so what happened in that case, which was a massive lawsuit, 6 years long, and very, very overwhelming, very powerful, is from the moment it happened, which it was out of the blue, which all of a sudden it happened. And I immediately said, I'm using this to go to God, period. That's all. That's what I'm doing. I don't understand why it's happening. Not sure what to do about it. But I know one thing I'm going to do is this is going to bother my ego. This is going to cause trouble inside of me. Big, maybe the biggest of anything that could ever happen in my life, if you will. And I am going to use this to let go of what's left of me, because that's the principle of my life. And I did that. I'm not saying it wasn't difficult, but if it isn't difficult, you're not doing anything. But that was my pole star every single moment during that time, no matter how bad it got, no matter what it was, no matter how threatening it was good. I'm letting this go. I'm letting this go, period, no matter what it is. And it became a tremendous source of spiritual growth, to where you get to the point where if you can handle that, you can handle anything. And so that's where I want to get. I want everyone to get to the point that they can say, I can handle anything. I still like one thing over another, but I can handle anything. I'm not afraid anymore. Whatever it is, if it's something I like, good, mazel tov, wonderful. I enjoy the beauty of the unfolding of life inside and out. If it's something that challenges me and it's disturbing, right, good. I have an opportunity to let go of what's stored inside of me that can get disturbed. And ultimately, you'll find that almost nothing can disturb you anymore. You just feel great joy, great love, because you open the channels. It really is yoga. You open the channels, the inner channels for the energy flow, and you'll feel it flowing all the time. So even something as challenging as that lawsuit was a blessing. It was a blessing because you made it be a blessing.
Well, I love that story, and I love the way you just shared it as well. And it really is the portal to joy, equanimity, and love, as you're talking about. It's this deep surrender. It's like removing the friction from how we deal with life circumstances by continuing to purify ourselves and become at peace. It's very profound. You're speaking very deep, classic truths in a very modern way, and really, you've been an example of it in so many ways for how you've navigated some of the challenges in your own life. So, deep kudos to you for this precision of your understanding and the offering here. I want to take some time now to talk about your program that you've created with Sounds True, and that we are now in partnership with, to help get the word out to the people who can benefit from it. So, as I've said multiple times, I really feel like Michael is one of the most profound teachers out there. And he's also somebody who's had a worldly life, who's had a career, who's built a company, who's had challenges like lawsuits. He isn't just he hasn't just kind of lived in this very bucolic ashram setting in India or something. He's gone through a lot of the same challenges that all of us have to face. And so the wisdom that emerges from him is profound, it's true to his life experience, and it's incredibly practical as well, which is part of why so many people from, Oprah to Tony Robbins to, top musicians are gravitating towards work without any promotion, really. So this is really a rare opportunity to go deep with Michael and to learn more of what he has learned over the course of his 40 years of practice and study. So the program is called Living from a Place of Surrender, the Untethered Soul in Action. This is a very high quality produced video program that you can take anytime. So you can literally today, 10 minutes after this program ends, you can start this program with Michael so that you can really take in his teachings and principles and life experience so that you can experience this untethering of your soul and the joy and equanimity and love that follow from it. So again, this is a Sounds True program, but we at Shift feel so strongly about Michael and his teaching work that we're getting behind it in a big way and helping to make it available to more people. You can find it at theshiftnetwork.com/singer, theshiftnetwork.com/singer. That will redirect you to a Sounds True page that describes it in a lot more detail. And so it's really the first ever online program that Michael has offered, and it's really for anybody who's struggling with your mind, who's on a spiritual path, who's seeking greater self-understanding, greater freedom. There's no prerequisites. It's really just being a human being who's curious and desires to become more awake and more enlightened and more real and more at peace as well. So, Michael, I'd love for you, in your own words, to share about this program and take us on a tour of the modules of some of what you've gotten the teachings here.
Well, I'd be happy to do that. What I've been saying to people, because it is, you're right, I live a quiet life and don't go out and do a lot of interviews, or, in fact, any. I did Oprah, but otherwise I haven't done that. So people have to come here to the temple to really get the teachings beyond the books. And what I have said, and I feel it strongly, is as popular as the Untethered Soul is all over the world, it's been published in 32 countries, over 1 million have sold. The teachings in this course go deeper. They are deeper and will take you deeper than the book itself. And that's a lot to say about a book that's been that popular. Why don't you, Stephen, because I'm not reading in front of me.
Who am I? Session 1.
Right. It starts with where it should, which is, again, it's all about teaching surrender, and surrender is very, very deep. It's not what I wouldn't want to talk about it now. It's not what you think it is. It's not about giving up. It's not about renouncing. It's not about, okay, I surrender, that's what I need to do. Reality wins, I surrender. That is not what surrender is. Surrender is way, way deeper than that. Surrender is how you liberate yourself and free yourself so that you can interact fully with life, not surrender life. So you have to start off with, if you're going to surrender, who are you? Who are you? Who is it that's surrendering? And I think a lot of the discussions that you led here, Stephen, and the questions you asked really lay the groundwork for that, which is, I am the one who's in here, watching the mind, observing the heart. If my heart hurts, if somebody comes to me, I don't do therapy one-on-one, but if somebody did and said, my heart hurts, I'd get in big trouble, because I'd say to them, how do you know? And that's not what they want to hear. They want to hear who did what and what do I do about it. That ain't what they're getting asked, right? How do you know your heart hurts? And you're going to look at me and say, well, it hurts. I know. How do you know? And eventually you get very mad at me. You look me in the eye and say, because I'm in here and I feel it. And I'm going to touch your feet. Because the fact that you know you're in there and that your hurt heart is something you're experiencing, not something you are. You were in there when it felt good too. So the first session is a deep, deep dive into wake up. You're in there. What is your relationship with your body? What is your relationship with your mind? What is your relationship with your heart? Who are you that is in there experiencing all of this?
That sounds fantastic. And then we go to session 2, which is on the outside world. And we probably won't have time to go into quite as much depth with each of these, but maybe just hit a highlighter.
All right. Well, I did the highlight on the outside world, and I talked to you about what happened 13.8 billion years ago. The session on the outside world, which is one of my favorite, sits there and says, you're so interested in what's going on in the outside world, why don't we check out where it came from and how it got the way it is, so you can understand what you're interfacing with.
Great. Then we go into session 3 is on the mind, and then session 3 is part 1 on the mind and part 2 on the mind in session 4.
Right. And I think that answers the situation within itself, the fact that it took 2 sessions. We are going to start with what Buddhists call empty mind, the true state of what mind is. And then we're going to build the mind as it is now, so you fully understand where it came from, why it says what it says, and then we're going to talk about how to get out.
Nice. And then session 5 on the heart.
Same thing. We all know we got a heart. We just don't understand a damn thing about it. Why is it open? Why is it closed? Why do I love somebody and then I don't love somebody, then I love them again because they said something I like? What in the world is going on with that heart? And we're going to build the heart from scratch. You can understand fully from then on why it does what it does and learn how to keep it open so it's always exuding love and beauty.
Then session 6 is on your predicament and the spiritual path.
All right. So that's what we've been talking about this entire interview. I think you all understand the predicament now. I'm in here and I'm locked in here with a crazy mind and a heart that keeps changing all the time. All right. And a world that's unfolding and keeps hitting the mind and so on. That's the predicament I'm in. How do I get out?
You're being very succinct. Session 7 is on learning to let go.
That becomes, people always want techniques. To me, I always say I don't teach techniques, but of course, in the course I do, and the book really ends up being a technique in of itself. What I want is, I have found out that the highest technique is your intention. If you want to stop smoking, I'll give you all the techniques in the world. If you don't want to stop smoking, you're not going to stop smoking. You wear all the patches you want, get hypnotized all you want. Unless you want to stop smoking enough, it's not going to happen. It is the same thing with your liberation. You have to, the main technique is, I want to. I would like to know what it would be like to respect and honor and feel passionate about the interaction with life and feel challenged and love the challenge and just basically enjoy interacting with every moment of my life, no matter what it is, and do my best to serve and give and feel that I've used my life wisely and so on. If you have that intention, the techniques are easy. But what this talks about is the highest technique, as I told you throughout this interview, is to be able to let go. If you can't let go, it's going to stay stuck inside of you and it's going to keep causing trouble. So how do you let go? And we're going to go into great depth of the moment-to-moment experience of either letting go or resisting.
Love that. And then finally, session 8 is on living a life of surrender.
Yeah, well, that, of course, once you do all this work, because most of the time what we talk about is non-negative. Isn't it kind of neurotic in there? Isn't it crazy? Wouldn't you like to stop? Well, that's non-negative, right? If you actually live your life moment by moment, what does life do? What does life look like? You start to actually see the perfection of what the universe is doing. And if you're in harmony with it, it starts to look like a miracle. And your whole life looks like a miracle. And you're living this life of surrender. And all of a sudden you realize, I don't have to be as busy inside. Outside, yes. But inside, I'm just working with the flow of life. I mean, it's the Tao. It's what Lao Tzu meant by the Tao. I'm in harmony with the unfolding of creation. And I'm serving it, but I'm not creating all this wasted energy inside. And that becomes the highest beautiful part of the last session, which is to talk about what happens to that energy. Where does it go? Because it starts to flow up. And literally, the Bible calls it the rush of holy waters. You just feel this upward rush, constant upward rush of Shakti, of Chi, of energy that's lifting you all the time. And it's almost like you can't fall because you're sitting on top of a geyser and it keeps flowing up inside of you. And ultimately, it becomes your spiritual path. It takes you wherever you need to go. It's the ultimate of yoga, the ultimate of spirituality, is to feel that spirit freed inside of you, lifting you into your higher place.
Well, it's clear when you speak about that, like how much it's an outflow of your direct experience. So I always most deeply trust the teachers who are teaching out of their direct experience, and it's clearly you really know this terrain in depth. You've logged the time on the cushion, you've done the time of service and witnessing, so that you really are teaching from a profound place of knowing, and what a great service to all of us. So I'll share a little bit more about the program with Michael. And again, you can find all the details laid out at theshiftnetwork.com/singer. That'll get you over to the Sounds True page. And so I want to point out there's a few extra bonuses that come with this course as well. There's a whole 10 teachings on the untethered soul at work. So Michael's teachings really apply very well to the context of our work life and all the stressors and challenges and the opportunities really for our own awakening that work provides. So there's 10 practical audio sessions that apply the insights from Untethered Soul at work. It's also a bonus that has to do with spiritual activism, the path of accepting and serving reality. Got a little bit of a sneak preview of some of those thoughts earlier in today's call. This is a 43-minute audio teaching from Michael. And probably the coolest bonus that I'm most excited about is there's one-for-one matching on this. So you give the gift of surrender. At every program that is purchased, that you purchase or someone else purchases, opens the possibility of a donated membership, one free course membership, to an individual who otherwise wouldn't have access. So this can really spread it around the world, people who don't have the means to participate other ways. So you're helping to spread these teachings of liberation and healing and enlightenment far and wide. So it's an incredible offer, and it's available until October 30th. You can do this program for just $200 actually say $197. So it's $100 off the regular price that we'll go back to on October 30th. So there's a great opportunity to engage these teachings at your own pace. So this is a self-paced program. You can get access to it literally in 10 minutes after we're done and begin this journey, because why wait? If it's about transforming the relationship with your mind, with your soul, with opening up a new possibility for joy and love as a result of working with life experiences in a deeper way, why not start right away? So again, you have the $100 off when you sign up before October 30th, or preferably just right away, as long as you're there. You can find all the details at theshiftnetwork.com/singer. Brings you over to the Sounds True page. And I would just say, Michael doesn't do this kind of stuff very often. And he put his heart and soul into giving you the most essential teachings, the deepest stuff that he can offer, so that this is a real transmission from his soul to yours. So I highly encourage you to do this program and go to the page, tune in, and if you get a yes, to go for it at theshiftnetwork.com/singer. So Michael, this has been an amazing hour. I love spending time with you. What a blessing it is, and very fascinating insights and practices. So just anything that you still want to say directly to the people who are considering joining you for the 8-week or the 8-module program of Living from a Place of Surrender.
Only that I look forward to sharing these teachings with you. They've helped a lot of people. They've certainly helped me, right? I'm amazed the transformation that is taking place by learning to surrender, the true surrender. And I very, very much enjoy looking forward to sharing, because I get to be with you all for 9 hours, and I like that. And I look forward to hearing from you all afterwards, how you did with it and how you grow, and keep up with your unfolding and your evolution.
Great.
That's it.
What a great blessing. And yeah, and so I also, one thing I forgot to mention, there's an online journal and questions for reflections as well, help to deepen the practices as you go. So again, you can find all the details on the program at theshiftnetwork.com/singer, and you'll get to the Living from a Place of Surrender program and all the blessings it can provide you. So thank you, Michael. What a great hour together, and thank you all for joining us. And let's go forth with a different relationship with our minds, more able to build capacity and be the shining beings of love and joy that we're here to be. So thanks all.
Thank you, Steve.
Many blessings.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Namaste.